Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a first look at XL Tinkaton in the Ultra League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Krabity, so many thanks for the battle submission. I'm thrilled that someone sent in footage of XL Tinkaton because I currently have 18 total XLs. I am nowhere close, but with the combination of a lot of hatching and I imagine some rare XLs, this battler has it powered up, so we get to take a first look at what this Pokemon can do in the Ultra League. And this trainer pairs it up with a Dusknoir lead at a Primeape safe switch and goes on quite a rampage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Tough lead in game number 1, leading into Guzzlord, safe switch into Primeape, and that's going to be swiftly answered with Typhlosion. Typhlosion going to be hit with the Rage Fist. Typhlosion is going to no shield, and that actually was a CMP tie. So a risky CMP tie, but one that does end up paying off. 2 Karate Chops and another Rage Fist for the Primeape as it continues to ramp up its attack stat more and more. But this Typhlosion is going to have to give up both shields as it's going to get outpaced here. The spammy pacing of the Primeape proves to just be too much, and the opponent will wisely go for the Thunder Punch here as they would not have been able to get a farm down. But winning switch advantage, it should just be game winning because Guzzlord is going to get stuck on Tinkaton. Guzzlord gets the farm down, but bad news for Guzzlord, in comes Tinkaton, and they're going to stay in and throw energy. So clearly they are core broken. In the back is Tentacruel, and Dusknoir gets to hit the field. Opponent is going to need 2 charge attacks to pick up the knockout here. Tentacruel is going to go for the Acid Spray first, understanding that Acid Spray plus Scald will be slightly cheaper energy than going for the double Scald. Dusknoir, in the meantime, however, is going to be spamming out these Shadow Punches, just looking to get as much damage as possible onto the opponent. Shadow Punch number 2 is going to get them deep into the red. They are going to return fire with the Scald. Can Dusknoir hang on here? Dusknoir barely hangs on. It's going to be a simultaneous switch out. Tinkaton is going to make quick work of this Guzzlord as it's getting KO'd with a Play Rough. Back in comes the Tentacruel, and Tinkaton in a very comfortable position to close out this game because Tinkaton in the Ultra League is so bulky. The opponent Acid Sprays on the CMP tie knowing they can't get the Scald, and that's going to be a game 1 win. We move to game number 2, leading Dusknoir into Shadow Lapras. This is not a bad lead considering Dusknoir does, of course, have access to Dynamic Punch. Honestly, the entire team can do pretty solidly against Lapras. Sparkling Aria is going to add up. That's quite a lot of damage. Dynamic Punch fired off by the Dusknoir. Lapras is going to give up a shield, and now we will see the safe switch into Primeape. No baits here from the Primeape, going straight for the close combat into the Lapras. Lapras is going to call the bait, and down they go. In comes a Drapion, and if this is their best response, then oh my goodness, they are very soft to fighting. Aqua Tail will not be enough to knock out even with the -2 defense. Close combat launched by the Primeape, getting the final shield. And this Drapion is going to have a pretty terrible day going up against Tinkaton. Tinkaton forces Drapion to go for an Aqua Tail. And oh my goodness, that damage was embarrassing. Drapion, fight back. Do something. That damage was horrifying. They're trying to crunch. They're throwing everything at this Tinkaton. And Tinkaton just does not care. In the back is going to be Cobalion. And Cobalion is going to fire off a neutral Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to connect. And the bulk on Tinkaton. It's already a pretty bulky mon in the Green League. As you see, a devastating Sacred Sword catch onto Dusknoir. But in the Ultra League, this bulk is just, oh my goodness. I can't blame the opponent for top lefting. They're like, get me away from this Tinkaton as fast as humanly possible. Bad lead leading into a Drapion. The Primeape safe switch is going to be answered with Golisopod. Golisopod, not a particularly fun Pokemon for Primeape to see. Primeape is going to continue to ramp up its damage more and more in this matchup. Golisopod with the double no shield. Primeape going to no shield as well, but this Aqua Jet is going to hurt. Aqua Jet connects. Primeape now deep into the red health, and unfortunately Primeape is not able to gain an advantage out of this matchup as Golisopod survives with both shields intact. In comes the Dusknoir. Dusknoir can look for a nice farm down here, and this way, hopefully, the energy will be valuable in back. In comes the Drapion. Drapion going to be smacked with a Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch is going to be shielded up, and in the back is Feraligatr. Feraligatr versus Tinkaton. This is the Shadow Feraligatr. I'm excited to see how this matchup plays out. I imagine both Pokemon are going to need 2 charge attacks to pick up the knockout. Tinkaton is going to go for the play rough. That's going to land, and this will put it into heavy slam range. Considering everything is so bulky in the Ultra League, I do actually like the idea of going for heavy slam play rough. I think in the Great League, bulldoze play rough is the way to go, but for the Ultra League, I think having the extra damage can be quite nice. Back in comes the Drapion, but the Drapion, there's just such a health disparity in this matchup. Drapion fires off the Aqua Tail. Tinkaton is able to hang on and make it to a last second heavy slam. Heavy slam into the Drapion is going to be no shielded, and with no energy, unfortunately, there's just nothing Dusknoir can do. Gravity realizes this, he is going to no shield, and unfortunately this game will end in defeat. We move to the next game, Dusknoir into Giratina. We'll have to check the fast move on this Giratina. This Giratina is on Shadow Claw, so they will have better pacing overall. Oh man, the opponent tried to CMP tie and they pay a heavy price, giving a free Astonish. There's going to be a safe switch into Blastoise. Blastoise will immediately be chipped with a Dynamic Punch, and this should now put the Blastoise much closer to close combat range. So I do like the decision to go for the chip here. Blastoise Hydro Cannons right away. Primeape is going to get a nice overfarm, and Primeape not going to bait, going straight for the jugular with the close combat. Close combat is going to connect. Down goes Blastoise. Back in comes the Giratina. Giratina is never going to shield this since it is going to be the first Rage Fist, so they are going to let that through. Primeape, just does not get farmed down, barely able to hang on. Rage Fist is going to grab the shield. In comes Tinkaton. Tinkaton, I mean, a Shadow Sneak is probably going to heal this Pokemon with the bulk it has. Look at that, Tinkaton, unbothered. It's going to be Lapras in the back, and now we're going to see a switch out into the Dusknoir. Dusknoir shielding up, as landing a Dynamic Punch would be very nice. No baits here, going straight for Dynamic. Lapras is going to put up the shield. It's going to be a race here. Can Lapras get the farm down? Lapras will fire off energy, not wanting to risk Dusknoir getting a move. And Dusknoir is just going to concede that energy and try and sweep with Tinkaton. Tinkaton is going to go for the Play Rough. Play Rough into the Lapras will do some pretty nice damage. Tinkaton, I think at this point you are shielding the Sparkling Aria because this is going to do more than a move from the Giratina. So Sparkling Aria is going to be shielded. Tinkaton now going for the Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam against the Lapras will be enough to pick up the KO. Back in comes the Giratina. Giratina hoping for a miracle. Even a Shadow Force would not knock out here. It's just going to be the Shadow Sneak. And that will be a very comfortable win for Tinkaton, as again, the bulk is extremely impressive on this Pokemon. Bad lead leading into a Guzzlord. We see the safe switch in a Primeape answered with Clefable. Oh my goodness. The opponent would be core broken to smithereens if they queued into a Tinkaton lead. But unfortunately, Tinkaton is in the back. The opponent made an interesting play that I kind of like here. They just went straight for the Swift as soon as they had it. And that's going to, of course, make the Primeape player no-shield it. But now, I mean, Clefable can just spam out straight Swift and keep switch advantage. This could potentially set up a nasty Dusknoir farm down, though. In comes the Dusknoir and gets the full farm down. That's a free Dynamic Punch. In comes Drapion, and immediately this Dynamic Punch is going to inflict some very nice damage. Dusknoir is going to farm up energy. We're going to see a switch into Tinkaton as Drapion fires off its energy. And my goodness, the opponent ran a team pretending Tinkaton isn't real, and unfortunately Tinkaton is very real, and it's about to completely sweep this endgame. Tinkaton will be able to spam out Heavy Slams in this matchup. Tinkaton still doesn't have to shield. This is the third move from Drapion. Granted, it is a non-Shadow Drapion. The Shadow, of course, is always going to be better, but even so, the opponent now going to switch in Guzzlord. I guess just trying for whatever possible damage they can get on this Tinkaton, but they just have no fastball pressure here. They're going to go for the crunch. Tinkaton does not care, and Tinkaton gets to fire off this Play Rough. Play Rough into the Guzzlord is going to pick up the KO. Back in comes the Drapion. If the opponent could farm down here, maybe there's a chance, but they're never going to be able to farm down. In this instance, Gravity is just going to put them out of their misery by switching into the Dusknoir and picking up the KO with the Dynamic Punch, and the opponent will resign the match. Decent lead in the next match, leading into Primeape. Opponent is going to safe switch into Giratina, and due to that one-turn switch in, we will see Dusknoir able to strike first with the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is going to land. There's the switch into Tinkaton. Tinkaton very comfortable absorbing all of this energy from the Giratina. Oh, this Giratina. Oh no, their ancient power Dragon Claw. They're completely walled. They're forced to just fire off resisted ancient powers. This is a sad state of affairs for Giratina Altered, as it's just going to get fairy winded down. You may as well just go over 100 here so you can exit at exactly 100 energy. Opponent is going to send in Golurk as their final Pokemon, and Golurk will immediately be met with the Play Rough. Now an aggressive pivot, sending in the Primeape, and I do really like this play. Playing aggressive, saving the energy on the Tinkaton because the opponent is so AVA weak to Fairy. And now we are going to see a shield from the Primeape as Golurk is going to go for the Shadow Punch. Opponent now switches in their own Primeape, and we will see a close combat. No baiting here. Is the opponent going to shield? No, they are not. Goodbye, Primeape. Back in comes the Golurk. Golurk will fire off energy, but they're just going to get astonished down by the Dusknoir. In comes the Dusknoir, and the opponent realizes there is no ability for them to win the game. We're going to see Dusknoir into Weezing. Depending on moveset, this could be a little bit tricky. The opponent throws on 5, an incredibly odd decision, and they're just going straight Sludge. Every single other move that Weezing could conceivably run would be better to throw than Sludge here. Whether it's Play Rough, Overheat, Brutal Swing. So I'm not sure why they're throwing Sludge in this matchup unless they are running Hyper Beam for some reason. I guess that's probably the only reason why they would do this. And they're an absolute mad lad if they're on Hyper Beam. Shadow Punch is going to pick up the knockout. Down goes Weezing. Out comes Guzzlord. And this poor Guzzlord is about to know the meaning of pain when it meets Tinkaton. Dynamic Punch into the Guzzlord does get no shielded. A shield would have been nicer to see here, but still, Tinkaton is going to completely shut down any move that Guzzlord can learn. Guzzlord throws a Sludge Bomb. That's not going to do anything. It's going to be Golisopod in the back, and this game is just completely over. Golisopod, it just does not have what it needs to 1v2 in this endgame. Play Rough launched at the Golisopod is going to grab the shield, and now in comes Primeape. Primeape is going to get to ramp up more and more and more, and we know one Aqua Jet is not going to threaten this Primeape whatsoever. Primeape, of course, does still have 2 shields remaining, so it may as well get some use out of the shields. You can't save them for the next game, and now Primeape will continue to ramp up its attack. This Rage Fist is going to be shielded up. Primeape is going to use the final shield of the match, but this is just a very comfortable game from here. The opponent X-Scissors for some reason, I guess going for a bit of a BM. They're going to make a catch onto Guzzlord, but I mean, Primeape just gets the farm down, and Primeape will get to the Rage Fist and be able to take the win. So I guess the opponent was going for a bit of a BM there with the X-Scissor, but either way, that game was long over. Picking up a disastrous lead in the next match, leading into Galarian Moltres. The safe switch into Primeape answered with a non-Shadow Dragonite. We're seeing a lot of ABA teams completely disrespecting Tinkaton as a Pokemon. Well, honestly, disrespecting any fairy type at that. Primeape Rage Fist is going to be shielded up by the Dragonite. Dragonite will fire off its last second Dragon Claw, but Primeape is looking to force the final shield. Primeape, I don't think is going to get another Rage Fist, so the Dragonite is going to get a big farm down, but I guess the goal is, you have to hope, as it got close to the Rage Fist but couldn't quite get there, you just gotta hope that Tinkaton will be able to sweep. This will be back-to-back Dragon Claws, so you just no-shield them both. The opponent, oh, they're running Hurricane! Now that is not what I was expecting to see whatsoever. In comes Tinkaton into the Moltres. Moltres staying in to throw a move. Everything they can throw is resisted. It's going to be the Brave Bird. Wow, that actually did nothing to Tinkaton. Oh my goodness. This thing, my goodness. I really need to work on my XLs apparently. I guess I will put it as my buddy and start walking it, because this thing looks crazy in the Ultra League. My goodness. Golisopod, Aerial Aces. Granted, the Battler cropped out the ELO, so I don't know what ELO we are working with here, but we have seen some interesting moves thrown at Pokemon. I guess it could have been another BM. They're just Aerial Acing a Steel type, but typically Golisopod shouldn't be running Aerial Ace. But either way, Tinkaton, very comfortable win, as it's able to sweep that endgame. Hopping into the final match, we have Dusknoir into what looks like an underpowered XL Credilli. Credilli is going to strike first with a Rock Tomb, and that's going to be instantly no-shielded by the Dusknoir. Quick switch into Primeape. Primeape is going to be answered with the Golisopod, but the opponent farmed up a lot before they switched in, giving Primeape this much of an energy head start. Primeape can and will punish that decision. Primeape more than happy to absorb an Aqua Jet here. And we see an X-Scissor getting thrown into a fighting type, so that is going to confirm my suspicion that my guess is these are probably pre-rank 20 battles, and that's why we're seeing some underpowered mons and battlers just throwing the wrong type of move at certain Pokemon. We're going to see Primeape able to flip switch in the mid-game. Again, being able to punish people throwing an X-Scissor at a fighting type, and as well, just giving Primeape an energy head start. The opponent realizes it looks like Primeape was actually going to make a move, so they're forced to fire off a Surf. In comes the Dusknoir, and Dusknoir is so loaded on energy. Dusknoir gets to fire off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is going to connect. Shadow Punch number 2 is going to be reached, but there's a switch back into Cradily. This poor Cradily is just going to be completely obliterated by this Tinkaton. In comes the Tinkaton. They can debuff Tinkaton all they want to. It's not going to matter. They go for a Grass Knot for damage, and oh my goodness, that damage is just sad. This thing is a monster. The bulk is just absolutely unreal. Oh my goodness. Tinkaton now gets to go for the Heavy Slam. That's going to be knocking out the Cradily. In comes the Jellicent, and there's no way a Shadow Ball's KOing here. Be so serious. They go for the Surf. They went for the bait, but Tinkaton was never going to fall for it. Tinkaton gets to fire off the Play Rough. Play Rough is going to get them low. There's the snipe with the Dusknoir, and that's a good game. All in all, I can see immense potential in XL Tinkaton, and to me, this is just an immediate meta contender in the Ultra League. Obviously, it's going to be one heck of a grind to get the XL candies. I am nowhere close personally, so I will be putting it as my buddy probably within the next few days and just starting to walk it and try and get these XLs. But man, even just having a meta Fairy Steel type is going to change what people run in this format, because there has been a pretty popular archetype for a while, Dragon plus Shadow Drapion. And that archetype, now that Tinkaton is going to increase in popularity, especially at high elo, I think that archetype is more or less dead. Like, I had great success running a Guzzlord, Shadow Drapion, Talonflame team. Obviously, Talonflame would love to see Tinkaton, but Guzzlord and Drapion, if you lead into a Pokemon like Tinkaton, there's just no counterplay. You can switch in Drapion, but Drapion's going to get completely destroyed. So I think it will cause a bit of an adjustment in terms of what people decide to play. Obviously, it's a Pokemon that does have its counters. It has very limited counterplay against something like a Talonflame. I guess it can fight back against a Gastrodon with Play Rough, but it's still a pretty miserable matchup. So it's a Pokemon that does have its counters. I think it's a pretty well-balanced Pokemon overall, but I do think its presence in the meta will cause a bit of a shift in terms of what people run, because it's a new meta threat that you'll have to keep in mind when you're looking to build a team. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.